A quote from a Russian lawmaker in response to the U.S. firing nearly 60 Tomahawk cruise missiles on a Syrian airfield Thursday night highlights the potentially dangerous geopolitical fallout. Mikhail Emelianov telling the Interfax news agency the U.S. is being dragged into the war in Syria in the full knowledge that Russia is supporting Syria and our troops are there. Which means, he says, there's a possibility of direct armed clashes and strikes between Russia and the U.S. Russian saber-rattling? Perhaps. That worst-case scenario notwithstanding, what is the immediate fallout from the U.S. airstrikes? The first is diplomatic. Russian officials on Friday condemned the Trump administration, saying that the U.S. is wrong. Syria's President Bashar al-Assad, the Russians say, was not behind the suspected use of chemical weapons earlier in the week.
We describe that attack as a flagrant violation of international law and an act of aggression. The consequences of this for regional and international stability could be extremely serious.
Nikki Haley, the U.S.'s ambassador, in turn made a highly provocative allegation.
It could be that Russia is knowingly allowing chemical weapons to remain in Syria.
The U.S. missile attack also poses a new complication for the Trump administration's push against the Islamic State. Russia's military entered the Syria conflict in 2015. The U.S. subsequently shied away from more aggressive military action, worried over the potential for military escalation with Moscow. Russia suspended on Friday an agreement with Washington for military coordination in Syrian skies. That raises questions about whether U.S. aircraft can continue their surveillance of Islamic State and air support for allies on the ground.
If we could get along with Russia, I think that would be a good thing.
More broadly, Mr. Trump's praise of Russian President Vladimir Putin during the presidential campaign led many to believe relations between the two countries would improve. Investigations into Russian interference in the U.S. election and concern over Moscow's interventions in Ukraine have lowered those expectations. And one possible consequence, Moscow could try to escalate conflicts elsewhere, including in eastern Ukraine, to try to improve its bargaining position with Washington.